right place. If you signed up for the introduction to Cloudspotting, and if you signed up to listen to Sharon Vardatira, it fascinated me. That's one of the reasons I wanted to host it. I thought it was one of the most different programs that we've had. Delightful. Anyway, Sharon has been preoccupied with the natural world since she was a child, dreaming of being a marine biologist and then a college student majoring in astronomy and honing her photography skills. Although she eventually made a career of working in the non-sector, she never lost her fascination with the weather or the stars and the clouds. She joined the International Cloud Appreciation Society in 2008, and in 2012, she launched Head in the Clouds Amherst. That is a blog that's dedicated to exploring and building a community around the intersection of life, weather, and clouds. And for the past years, she's co-facilitated the Massachusetts chapter of the Cloud Appreciation Society, and she is a certified severe weather spotter for the National Weather Service Skywarn program. Sharon has lived in Amherst since 1995, sharing her love of clouds with her wife of 45 years and her son, who lives in Boston, and anyone else like me who enjoys looking up. With that, I'm turning the program over to you, Sharon.
Hey, everyone. So I'm, that was a lovely introduction, Carly. You know, I had to establish credibility as someone who loves clouds. That's really my claim to fame here. And then I talk and I do whatever I can out in the world to bring people into the cult of cloud lovers. I do have a PowerPoint that I'm going to be running through, and I have to say, I didn't expect so many people to be kind of into this, although why not? I mean, there should be hundreds here. So I kind of like imagined we would share our love of clouds and talk about it with each other, but there's probably too many for us to just have a kind of general conversation. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to talk and present. If you have questions, please raise your hands. Joanna over here is looking for people to raise their hands, and she will interrupt me. And at some point, if, you know, I decide, oh, I want to get a little further, there will be time at the end where I will open it up. I think the description said something about you will be able to share your pictures of clouds. We may not do that for everyone because that would be, you know, the hour, but I am so excited to say, you know, like if you have cloud pictures and you send them to me, I will put them up on the Facebook page for Head in the Clouds Amherst. So, and then everyone, all of our 800 followers will see, we'll be able to see them and enjoy them. So anyway, so that's where this is at. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up a PowerPoint, and here we go. And starting from the beginning. All right. Okay, you all see the screen, right? And this also means that I can't see but a handful of you that show up on my screen. So if you raise your hand, I'm going to depend on other people who are watching, like Joanna, to say something. So the first thing I want to say is I was like really excited to see a PowerPoint like this. This is a template, and I was like, they knew that I was doing this. So I have been a member of the International Cloud Appreciation Society since 2008. And what I want to say is I borrow liberally from what I've learned there and from people's chit chat about clouds. And so you will see in this PowerPoint, I'll refer to something called CAS, which is the Cloud Appreciation Society. So you know that I've been thoroughly indoctrinated by them, as you will understand as we go through this. what I want to say is one of the really awesome things about cloud spotting is it costs nothing to do. It's great to do at any age. It's great to do with children because they see things in a different way than sometimes adults do. And so they can bring you along and get really excited about that. And you can, like I have even enjoyed just looking at clouds from people around the world. So you can cloud spot at any point. So even if your weather is terrible and there's no clouds out there, or the sky is blue, which is not our favorite kind of sky, those of us who are cloud spotters, there's still other people all over the world who are sharing their images and talking about clouds out there. So I'm going to bring you into that community too. So not only am I going to talk about clouds, but all of the ways in which you can interact with other people who love clouds. So here's what we're gonna cover here. Cloud spotting rules, the CAS, Cloud Appreciation Society Manifesto, and in fact, they have a manifesto and they call it a manifesto. So, but do not let that frighten you. I will introduce you to that. We're going to do some cloud classification talk, although I don't go heavy into that. This is not a science presentation. It's really just to share the things that are great about clouds. And then there's seeing things in the clouds. This is a whole category. People who can. And then there's cloud poetry and cloud art. I'll do a little nod to that. And then tips on photographing clouds, which I do a lot of photographing. And the great thing these days is that all of us, most of us have a phone that we can take pictures and share that way. And then I have a bunch of resources and groups and things that you can get connected to. And just so you know, this PowerPoint is going out afterwards to everyone who's in this session. So you can refer to it and there'll be links in the PowerPoint. So if you want to, I don't know, go check out a particular group, you can do that. So this picture here is by Isabella Delolio. I've never actually heard anyone say her name. She is a local portrait photographer. You may be aware of her work. She sent this to me. She took this at Mount Pollux. One day she was going home and a storm had just gone through and people were gravitating up, and they were gravitating up because look at that sky. How could you not be drawn to it? I mean, it's just extraordinary. So I thought I just wanted to pause for a minute here and ask if anyone, like I just get a sense of where you all are at in your cloud journey. And obviously I can't have all of you weigh in. I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute, but who is anyone here a member of the Cloud Appreciation Society? Show of hands. No? Okay. Anyone here who would consider themselves just a casual cloud spotter? I like to go out and look at clouds. Thank you. There we got a bunch of people. So you're here, you've already you've seen the light and the beauty, and that's great. Anyone who just raised their hands want to share, like, what do clouds make you feel? I'm looking at you, Jamie, because you're looking pensively, and I don't know, just I'm calling on you.
Okay. Well, I'm just picturing looking at clouds and what am I thinking? What am I mean, it's the wild part of our environment most of the time. That's the place where it's the most unknown to me, I guess.
Yeah.
And the movement of, I'm also wondering, looking for signs of the weather. Is it going to be hotter? Are we getting rain, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, that's the oldest, the oldest kind of weather forecasting that is known to humanity, I'm sure, is looking up and looking at the clouds. What is it telling us? Mm-hmm. Anyone else here want to share what clouds feel like to you? Amherst neighbors, I don't have your name there, so I can't call on you by name. But
that's Larry. Go for it, Larry.
Larry, go for it.
It's just a connection to nature, but it's that part of nature that is so infinity-like, it's that never-endingness going up. It's an inverse feeling to looking at the ocean and going down. It's so much bigger than we are, and the beauty that comes with some of the formations, rainbows and the like. It's overwhelming sometimes. So that's what it is. It's feelings for me.
I love that. And I love that equation of the ocean too, because it's a similar feeling you get when you look at the ocean to looking at clouds. Carly, you had your hand up.
Takes me back to my childhood. It takes me back to times when we would go out to the park and have to make up things to do and look up. We'd look up in the clouds and we'd name the clouds. They weren't, we weren't as good at it as you are. It would be more like, that's a bear, or that's, and we'd make up stories. And we've lost that.
Yeah.
Many of us, and many of the children have lost that
Mhm.
as a thing to do. At least I don't see them.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be looking at clouds if you're looking at computers. And here we are looking at computer and looking at clouds. So we get to do both. It's a great thing. One more person. Anyone here want to share what? Judith.
Well, right now the clouds are wispy and soft, and then some other time they might be really dramatic and red and colorful and stormy. But whatever they are, they're always there and right now, and then they're always changing. And there's always a feeling that behind the cloud, if the clouds are heavy and dark and everything, behind that cloud, there is sunshine or something. So it's like there are all these different states of being, and you can completely participate in them in the moment, knowing that they are ephemeral.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a great way to put it. I was saying to someone before most of you came on. I often have this moment. You can be like at Big Y or Stop and Shop, or I don't know, just doing your daily whatever, and you look up and the clouds are doing something incredible. And I look around at the people, and most people don't see it. They're just like, it's just the backdrop of our lives. And yet, if you just step back and pause for a moment, it's like so transporting. It like brings you to just an appreciation, even in the most mundane situation. And yeah, sometimes the clouds are, I say to people, I love it when the clouds are, lovely and wispy like today. But I also love it when they get kind of demonstratively dramatic, and there's a lot of energy there. So yeah, I think those are all great responses, and they do make you feel something. I mean, that's the powerful thing. So I'm going back, seeing if I can go. Are we back? That worked. So, oh no, that didn't work, because, hang on. I'm trying to go back and share my screen. And so someone had their hand up there, I just saw, and I didn't catch who it was. Hang on.
It might have been me.
Was it you, Freddie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I think maybe I got in too late, because I think you said the other person was the last one.
Oh, but go ahead, please do. Yeah.
Well, it just came to me as the other person was speaking. I was driving over in Hadley today on North Maple Street. And there's something about the clouds in the Connecticut Valley that's really unique. It feels like they're just floating just above your head. And these were these puffy fair weather clouds.
Exactly what you
And
mean.
I'm driving in it, and I do this all the time. It's very known territory to me. It's not something unusual, but those clouds over the tobacco fields and the barns are just magical. And there's something about October. When October comes along, their clouds look like reclining bodies in the sky. They're long, they're big, and it's really unique here, I think, or it's just me. I don't know.
It is not just you. And you're going to see most of this presentation. I have a lot of pictures of clouds, and most of them have been taken in Hadley. I'm going to say right off.
Yeah.
I love going to the farmland and taking these big pictures. So let me go ahead, and we'll be able to continue to talk as we go through. And I'm hopefully I got it this time. you think I'd be good at doing this. Oh, now we're back at the beginning. There we go. Okay. So we're now at cloud spotting rules. Here we go. And now we get really serious because of course there are no rules to cloud spotting. And that's the first thing to know. But here we go. You don't have to know cloud classifications. I know some cloud classifications, and people give me credit for being quite the expert, but I am not. I hang out with people who are experts, and you know, it's great. It's fun for me to know some, because it's like another thing I can do with clouds is look up and go, oh, there's a cumulus cloud. And most of us can all identify that particular cloud, but you know, you don't have to do that at all. And you don't have to see things in the clouds, but I've come to learn that that's actually a gift that some people have. And so I don't have that particular gift, and I'll talk about it a little later on. But if you have that gift, go for it. You know, that's another perfectly legitimate, absolutely wonderful thing to do with clouds. And cloud spotting is not a competition. Although I have to say, I do have I will talk about this a little later. It's called the Cloud Collector's Handbook. And you can check off what clouds you have. And I have come to understand that if I could get someone else to do this with me, we could compete to see who could check off the most clouds. And I wouldn't want to do that with anyone in Australia, because they have some really wild and amazing clouds. But this particular handbook, which the Cloud Appreciation Society puts out, actually gives points to different clouds. So the more common clouds have less points, and the more unusual clouds have more points. So you could turn it into a competition, but it's really not. Even the competitions are friendly, happy competitions. So this is, I mentioned this before, this is the CAS manifesto. And I felt like, you know, if I'm indoctrinated here, I felt like all the rest of you should also be indoctrinated. This is the international organization that oversees, sort of encourages cloud appreciation. So I wondered if we could perhaps take turns and read our way through. So for instance, I could call on someone, would read the first clause, and then someone else the next. And I'm not going to see you. So I only see like 6 people here. So the 6 people I see are going to get called on. So I hope you're ready. But just so, John Rosenthal, are you prepared to read the first sentence here? We can't hear you on mute. You're still on mute.
How's that?
There, now you're good.
We believe that clouds are unjustly maligned and that life would be immeasurably pure without them.
Awesome. Do you want to keep reading, John? You can read the next sentence.
Oh, somebody else can do it. I'm not.
Okay, Susan, you're in my screen. You're on mute, Susan. We're going to do this each time, but that's okay. It gives us time to reflect. Susan Lewandowski? Yeah, you're still on mute. Can we unmute you? I might be able to do that. There you go.
We think that nature's poetry and the most egalitarian, that they are nature's poetry and the most egalitarian of her displays, since everyone can have a fantastic view of them.
Richard Berman, you're on mute. I'll anticipate this before.
We okay?
Yep.
We pledge to fight blue sky thinking wherever we find it. Life would be dull if we had to look up at cloudless monotony day after day.
Let's see, who else do I have here? Liz? Also on mute.
We seek to remind people that clouds are expressions of the atmosphere's moods and can be read like those of a person's countenance.
Nice. Susan or Sylvia, are you available to read? You might not be. Okay, cool. Let's see. Judith, I have you on my screen. Rafa?
Yeah, that's me.
Got it.
We believe that clouds are for dreamers, and their contemplation benefits the soul. Indeed, all who consider the shapes they see in them will save money on psychoanalysis bills.
And I will wrap up here. And so we say to all who listen, look up, marvel at the ephemeral beauty, and always remember to live life with your head in the clouds. So this probably tells you all you need to know really about the Cloud Appreciation Society. They approach this whole thing with a good deal of humor. They don't take it too seriously. And the founder of the organization, who you may have seen, there have been articles about him. His name is Gavin Prater Pinney. I'm looking at his book. The most British name you will ever hear, I think, possibly. It was founded in the UK, and that is also a country where people do things like train spotting, so that might not be surprising. But there are about 58,000 members of the Cloud Appreciation Society all over the world. And one of the things I love is just seeing so much of what is going on and what other people are seeing in other parts of the world. We have our share of awesome clouds. But there are some things that, you'll see in other parts of the Southern Hemisphere and stuff that you just don't see here. So I love the community. And it's a community that understands that this is for joy. And that's a good thing. So let's see. Now, how do I? Okay, so we are going to do a little bit of classification here. I'm not going to go, crazy. What you need to know is that cloud classification, like any classification system, has tiers that can become very complicated. So I have here your basic 10 types of clouds, but under each of these categories are, subcategories. If you think about genus and species and those things you used to learn in school. And this picture actually is kind of like elementary school here. So we're going back to it. So you will see that the clouds are generally named for where they are, what level they are in the troposphere, which is the part of the atmosphere that's closest to the bottom part of the atmosphere. That's where clouds form. And so they can be in the low part, the middle part, the high part. And you'll notice a couple of clouds actually span the entire, a cumulonimbus cloud. You will see low level all the way up to the top of the troposphere. And actually it has this classic anvil shape that it happens when it hits the top of the troposphere and then just starts elongating out. And that's your big, storm cell, storm cloud. So cirro, which you'll see in the top level, cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus, means a curl of hair high up. Alto is generally the name for the middle level, which is mid, alto. Strato is layer, and then nimbo is like rain and precipitation. This is what I'm told. I'm not a Latin expert. And cumulo kind of means heap. So those are the ways that it looks. And I have examples of all of these, but we're going to take them group by group here. And we're going to first look at our low level clouds. So stratus, and I'm going to bring them all up so we can look all together at them. Stratus is, and I'm going to admit, this is probably the one type of cloud that cloud watchers don't really love. It's that, when you go out and it's gray and it's overcast and there's no definition and it's just low level, it's just featureless, that's stratus. Fog is also stratus though, so I kind of think there is a place there. I kind of like being in fog, and I'll talk about that a little bit when I show you the picture. Stratocumulus is probably the most common cloud that you're going to see out there. A lot of people don't understand it's like its own classification, but it's low level, patchy, gray, clumpy base of cloud. And cumulus, well, y'all know cumulus clouds. This is the classic cloud as a kid. Every child's drawing that has clouds in it is going to have a cumulus cloud, little puffy puffballs. And then cumulonimbus, those big storm clouds, if you ever watch Twister, those are the clouds that give rise to things like tornadoes and, lightning storms and all the rest of it. They're intense, they're full of energy. So here are some pictures. This is a picture of stratus. I decided not to go with the classic just gray because that would be boring, but this is fog on the Amherst Common. And I kind of love being in fog because I remind myself that I am like basically in a cloud. The cloud has come down to earth and you're in it. You can feel those, clouds are made of rain drops of moisture, typically, unless they're really high up, in which case they're ice. But down here, stratus, you've got your fog, and it's very atmospheric and beautiful. So stratus isn't always a bad thing, but most of the time it is. And I will say there's some cloud people who are like, no, fog doesn't count, but we're gonna let it count. So this is stratocumulus cloud. This is the clumpy gray base that you see here. It doesn't typically always give rise to rain. You won't expect rain with every kind of stratocumulus, but it makes you think it might rain. And one of the cool things about stratocumulus, and you have to think for a moment, photographs are two-dimensional, right? So when you have a cloud that's really close to the ground and kind of dramatic like this, when you take a picture of it, it looks even closer than it is. So frankly, I took this from the car going down, the main street in Amherst. It was not as dramatic when I was looking at it as the camera made it out to be, because it kind of created that lovely proximity, bringing it closer, really full of drama. But yeah, that's stratocumulus. This is your cumulus. I don't know who was talking, and I'm not looking because if I could see you, when you were talking about the puffy clouds over the farms, and we see this, and it's classic around here and everywhere actually has cumulus clouds, and they're these beautiful puffball clouds that we all know. So if you know no other classification, most of us know a cumulus cloud. We can look up and go, oh, there's a cumulus cloud. And here's cumulonimbus. This picture was, so as the person who kind of manages and runs Head in the Clouds Amherst, I also do an annual calendar, and Brian Leclerc actually submitted this picture for consideration. One of the years of calendars. It's an extraordinary picture. You're getting that cumulonimbus cloud. You are actually only looking at the bottom part of it. If he was back further, you might see all the way to the top and see that classic anvil shape. You also got lightning coming from it, which is good for him. I hope he was inside. I would not want to think he was this close to lightning. And the other thing you can get from this picture, and I don't know, some of you may see it right off and some of you maybe need to be led here, but he saw a dragon immediately. So if you look in the middle, it's kind of like the dragon is turning around and looking at the lightning. I didn't see it at first at all. I really had to want to get it to understand it. Now I can't not see it. But that's cumulonimbus. The cumulonimbus is a cloud of extremes. The energy in an average cumulonimbus cloud can be the equivalent of like 10 Hiroshima-sized atom bombs. It's just incredible. And I think people don't understand how powerful and how much energy is in these clouds. And why you also don't want to be just fooling around. These are the ones that create things like microbursts, that will take out a whole, I don't know if you remember, there was a microburst in East Hampton a few years ago that just leveled a whole area. And then I was talking to a friend who lives in South Amherst, and in 2020, I think May 15th, 2020, she was coming home and there was like a big dark cloud. And she was like, oh my God, what's going on? This cloud, I better get home. And as she walked in her door, microbursts hit her house, only her house. The other houses around her were fine. Took out her kitchen, caved in her roof. It was a good thing she was out, but yeah, they can be quite intense. Okay. The other thing I should note is you'll notice that some of these terms come up at different levels. So stratus exists at the low level, but you also see here nimbostratus is a middle level cloud. And as soon as you see the word stratus, you're like, oh my God, it's going to be probably featureless and gray. It's different at different levels. You'll experience it differently, but nimbostratus is a higher level kind of gray, rain cloud. And in this case, the nimbostratus, you remember this span 2 levels. That means, yeah, this cloud is going to give rise to rain and precipitation. It would be unusual for it not to. Sometimes pretty heavy. And sometimes when it's really heavy rain, you can't tell because it feels very like it's all around you. But if you could back up a little bit, you'd be able to see more formation in it, features in it. So altostratus is, again, a mid-level cloud. It's, again, not a lot of features. It's a lot thinner than nimbostratus, which is just solid. Altostratus, you might see some sunlight coming through, which can make it be really beautiful depending on the time of day. And then altocumulus, my all-time favorite cloud. It's the kind that creates like ripples across the sky, and I have some pictures which I can show you here too. So here's nimbostratus. Yeah, there are some features here, and probably the nimbostratus is more what you're seeing at the top, but all of it is kind of gray, rainy. You're going to look out and see this. You're going to be like, yeah, it's going to rain. So that's nimbostratus. There are some features in the nimbostratus, like at the bottom right, you'll see where it's hanging down a little bit. Those are called scud clouds, and they're just kind of like where the cloud has dropped down, and it doesn't mean it's going to turn into a tornado or anything like that. It's just where the cloud has kind of fallen out of the bottom of the piece there. You'll see them. They're just like little strands coming along the bottom base there. This is altostratus. So again, pretty featureless, but as I said, thinner than nimbostratus. And that means that the sunlight can come through. So, you know, if you like this kind of scene, I kind of love this kind of scene. Again, another beautiful farm scene. This is in winter, and it's kind of just, the sun is coming through. It can sometimes come through golden or a little tone to it, depending on the little color to it, depending on the time of day. I think can be very beautiful, but again, not a lot of features in this particular cloud. And this is altocumulus at sunset. If you've been in Amherst for a while, some of you may actually remember this night. It was the 4th of July, some years back. I can't remember what the year was exactly. And we were waiting for the fireworks show to happen, you know, down on the UMass fields. And this was going on. I don't know if you all remember this, but it went from like this color to a really deep red before the sunset. And so what's going on here is these altocumulus clouds, which if it wasn't sunset, you'd see this sort of white ripply effect. The sun has now set below the clouds, so it's actually reflecting light up underneath the cloud, which makes for an incredibly beautiful view. But I think these clouds are beautiful any way you do it. And anyway, you know, any time of day. They're just beautiful. A sort of mid-level cloud. I will say we were doing a calendar that the next year, and I got about 15 of these pictures. So a lot of people submitted pictures that were like this. So yeah, variations on it. It's pretty beautiful. You all might have it in your, go back and look if you were taking pictures. So here's the high clouds. We have cirrostratus. So as you'd expect, high clouds, cirrus clouds, these are going to be lighter in area. Cirrus is, I'm going to get it. The low level is 6,500 feet and below. The mid-level is 6,500 feet to 20,000 feet. And cirrus is above 20,000. So there's quite a difference in elevation. And cirrus clouds are typically ice crystal clouds. So they reflect and they move a little bit differently than raindrops would, or drops, not raindrops, but moisture, water drops. I get it right. So again, this is light, milky whitening of the blue you will see. It can have some definition, but typically not a lot. Cirrus, this is the other cloud that a lot of people can identify. Like they get cumulus, and then cirrus is that wispy, airy strands of hair kind of looking cloud, often very beautiful, comes in all different shapes because imagine the ice crystals are kind of being blown and caught in the wind. It can make for a beautiful scene. And then cirrocumulus clouds. Again, see that cumulus terminology come up. Cumulus meaning sort of mounds. I'm trying to think of what we call it, patches, layers. And it can happen up above too. So I'll show you what these look like. So this is cirrostratus. I took this picture last fall in Sunderland, and especially the cirrostratus would be the foreground cloud. When you get down by the horizon, you might be looking at other things, but you'll see that, you know, the light's definitely shining through. So it's not this opaque gray or anything. You get this kind of white light. I think it can be really beautiful. And you can see there's a little attempt to have some feature there, but it's not going anywhere quickly. And again, this is at sunset, so I was taking advantage of the lower level. This is a cirrus cloud I took in Hadley from the car. So I was like, look at me in traffic. And again, they come in all, they can be just wispy, and you'll see some of the lines over to the right and lower down are just that wispy sort of cirrus. And then every once in a while, they come and look like almost like birds or feathers or things like that. And this is cirrocumulus. It's sometimes hard to tell the difference between cirrocumulus. Like if you looked at a picture, this could also be a mid-level cloud. The reason when you're outside, you'll know because, and I don't have the actual, I think it's like, if you put your thumb up and the little clumps are smaller than your thumb, then you're looking at cirrocumulus. And if it's bigger, then you're looking at a mid-level cloud, like an altocumulus cloud. So there's that. So like I said, there's a wild array of other clouds, and I could be here all day just showing you different things, but I thought I'd show you a few that came my way. And this is important to know. These are contrails. I'll be frank with you here. If you go into any Cloud Appreciation Society webpage or want to post contrails, this is the one place where people who are cloud spotters will lose their minds. They will be like, these are not real clouds, because contrails are formed by the condensation of the exhaust of jets, right? And airplanes. And so they're not a naturally occurring phenomenon. In fact, you can see right sort of to the upper right third there's actually a jet. You can see it. You can see the jet, the trail coming out of the jet. I don't know what was going on this day. It looks like it was taken above, like by a plane. I just pulled this off of, I think, Wikipedia on contrails. I will admit that there's that one cloud going across the middle, and contrails spread out as the wind catches them. And so sometimes I could be looking at a cloud and go, is that a contrail, or is it a bit of altocumulus there? And so, I just pause before I post something like that, because I'm definitely gonna possibly get pushback. But honestly, if I posted something that was just that middle cloud going, that one that's broader, half the people would go, no, that's a real cloud. Half the people would say, no, it's a contrail. But we know, because we see it in context here, that it is in fact a contrail. So there's still, the one thing that's important to know about contrails, if you're a movie maker, is that they will drive people producing period pieces crazy, because you can't be doing something set, say, in the 1700s and have a contrail running through your screen. It's going to give away your period. It's just all wrong. So it kind of, I understand. I hear that it actually makes some movie makers a little crazy if they're in an area where lots of jets are. And so they try not to be in those areas. Okay, so this is just an odd cloud. I got this. I also manage the Cloud Appreciation Society's Massachusetts chapter. And so we have a page that a bunch of people in Massachusetts post things to. And so the person who took this, Josh Simons, is one of our people. And he took this about 4 months ago out in the eastern part of the state. So he wasn't in some weird, crazy place. He was in Massachusetts. And this is a cirrus cloud that has developed, and it happens because of the wind direction and temperature changes and stuff like that. So you can see the wispiness of the cirrus here. It's almost coming off of maybe a cirrocumulus cloud and sort of dropping into these long fibers that are, sort of cirrus. But this is like one of those, if you look this up, you wouldn't see this particular thing probably anywhere unless you were looking at this picture, because there are all kinds of variations of this. But yeah, this is a kind of cirrus cloud. Pretty remarkable capture, I think. Okay. So this is called, I'm going to pronounce it Asperitas, I think. And this is a cloud. It's the newest cloud classification cloud that's been classified. There's actually a cloud atlas out there. It's like, if you thought about the Audubon bird book, there's a equivalent for clouds. I think it's called the Cloud Atlas. And this cloud was added. Actually, the Cloud Appreciation Society had been promoting this as a new cloud classification for some time. And I think in 2019 or 17, I can't remember, one of those years, it got officially accepted. So it is considered a low to medium level cloud. So the low parts of this cloud can actually hang down where you would expect a low level cloud, and then it can go up. I like to think of it as the Harry Potter Voldemort cloud. If you're, familiar with that series of books, it has a sort of ominous look to it, a sort of little bit creepy. Some people think it's looks like aliens are coming down. So the picture on the right is what you'll see if you look, say, in the Cloud Atlas or in Wikipedia at Asperitas. But the picture on the left was taken by Amy Johnson, who sent it to me, heading the Clouds Amherst. She was on I-86 coming through Connecticut, and she looked at that and she was like, what the heck is that? And I thought, when I saw it, it looks a little bit like Asperitas. And in fact, Gavin Prater-Pinney weighed in and said, yes, it is. So we have a bona fide sighting here. And it's a pretty cool thing to see. It's just a very dramatic cloud. It is not associated with big storms, though it's often adjacent to them. So you might see this around a big storm cell, but it's not itself going to produce lightning and all kinds of terrible things, even though it looks like it could, right? Kind of love that cloud. So this is unlike the one you just saw. This is actually associated with storms, and I'm looking more to the upper left of this picture. This is called Mammatus cloud. Some people refer to it as mamma, or you might think of it as mammary glands. It looks like a cow's udder hanging down from, like many udders hanging down from the sky. This is how you can know, and it's definitely associated with very unstable air. I had a friend who went up in a hot air balloon, which did not do well. And as they were going up, she was like, oh, look at these things. And as they were coming down shortly thereafter, probably wasn't a good time to go up in a hot air balloon. So I would say, if you see this in the sky, don't go into the sky in a hot air balloon. I did talk to someone recently who said they saw this exact thing when that tornado went through Springfield. They were out a little bit earlier before the tornado, and they saw mamma clouds in the sky. So this is lit up. It's like, it looks like it might be a sunrise version of this. Oh yeah, and this was also Josh, our person in Eastern Massachusetts, saw this. So he was not in some, he saw it a few weeks ago as those storms were rolling through. And then I think what we see a lot in this area is what I call mixed cloud skies, which are fun because it's like, well, what am I seeing up here? I was stuck in traffic on Route 9, and I turned my camera, like I took my phone out and took this picture. because the clouds were like being incredible. And it's another example of something really mundane and not all that pretty going on the ground when the sky's just like going, hey, look at me. So what we see here are some cumulus clouds. And then we see in the background cirrus clouds. And then off here in the distance, you're getting some probably cirrostratus, I think is what we're seeing. So we might be seeing a few different things there. And Gavin actually does presentations sometimes with people who run groups, but he also goes on YouTube once a week and does presentations that anyone can see. And one of the things I love is when I present him with something which is mixed sky like this, and he's suddenly seeing, there's this, and there's that. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that, but now I feel really special. So, yeah. So quick nod, I'm not going to go down this path. We could do a whole other workshop on clouds in art and poetry. Of course, I thought to myself as I was putting this together, I should have an example of a poem. I wonder if Emily Dickinson has ever done a poem about clouds. And sure enough, as soon as I Googled it, up came her whole cloud, you know, like a whole poem where she's describing clouds almost like an animal. It's really beautiful. And then there are some other things. So there's lots of paintings. I just pulled one out here. We have your stratocumulus clouds, I think is what we have in the La Bourrage painting. Thank you. I know there are people here who are going to be much better at this than I am, but I mean, artists have done all kinds of depictions of clouds. You can just imagine. And then of course there's, you know, sculptures and modern things. So I pulled this, the Tanwi Litz Land Art Festival in Taiwan. Those are clouds that are sculptures of clouds that actually emit raindrops. And so when the sun hits it in a certain way, like a little mist, it creates rainbows. So there are people all over doing incredible things to, you know, honor clouds, to capture clouds. And it's kind of incredible. One of the things I love about the Cloud Appreciation Society is every day they send out a cloud a day. And the cloud a day is sometimes a picture, sometimes a poem, sometimes a work of art, sometimes a bit of history. And so that's actually how I came upon those two right there. Was I pulled that from their thing. So I mentioned this before. Hey, let me just pause for a moment and not even paying attention to time. So any questions, any comments, any like just want to take a breath and say something?
Yes, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that I've heard terms such as mackerel sky or mare's tails, and these are mare's tails are obviously the cirrus clouds, I believe. I'm not sure what would a mackerel sky be?
So mackerel sky is it's an alto cumulus sky. So it's that, you know, the one I showed you where the sunset was the 4th of July sunset. If you saw that, you know, without the sun setting, it would be white and it would be dots across it. So that's what a mackerel sky is. And there are all kinds of terms actually that people will use instead of like cumulus or cirrus or whatever. So the mare's tails is interesting because it's cirrus, but it's also cirrus that looks like a tail. So they all kind of flow in the same direction. And there's actually a version of it that has a little hook on it, which can mean that inclement weather is coming. So, but different people, different vernacular, common vernacular for these things. So someone will go, it's this, and someone else will say it's that. And it's like, it's both those things. So yeah, I like mackerel sky. That's very, it describes the sort of spotty mackerel, you know, markings, if you will, of those clouds. Any other? I have a tendency to just run on, so I want to give people a chance to ask a question or.
If anybody has a question, just unmute yourself. So Carly, go ahead if you unmute yourself.
I lived in Iowa for many years, and I don't know how we would describe the clouds that we saw, or how do you describe they're not contrails, but the funnels. What are they made of?
So are you talking about, where were you living at the time?
Iowa.
Oh, Iowa. So you're talking about really funnel clouds, right?
Twisters.
Yeah, twisters. I mean, those are kind of cloud. There's like a technical term for them. And they often give rise from, I didn't talk about wall clouds and shelf clouds, and those are all things that as a sky-worn weather spotter, we have to know how to know the difference between them. But those cumulonimbus clouds often have like a hanging shelf behind, they have like almost a wall behind them, which is where those funnels form from. But yeah, they're a bona fide cloud, and I know plenty of people who love chasing those.
Yes.
Yeah.
I saw in your biography that didn't you chase them for a while? Yeah, you were.
Me?
Yeah.
I lived in Kansas at one point and had a close encounter with tornadoes. And I will say for a long time, this is just a little aside. I thought it would be really exciting to go tornado chasing. I now am aware that it's become such an industry that when you are in a place where tornadoes are happening, it's almost dangerous. The number of people who are going out to go chase tornadoes and the number of people who are trying to get away, and it's not a good situation. I decided at some point I was not gonna I'm also of a certain age. Maybe I don't have the constitution for it, but I also think there's a certain level of danger here that it's very exciting. But I think for any of us who have been in a real weather calamity, there's a point at which you go from, this is amazing. Like I've been in hurricanes, tornadoes. There's a point at which it's like so amazing. And then you kind of cross that line and you're like, oh, wait a second, this is really terrifying. And life-threatening. So I'm happy to look at pictures that people come up with. There's a person in the Cloud Appreciation Society who lives in the UK and just can't get enough, and he travels to Texas every spring and does tornado chasing, and he's just, if he were here, he'd be like enthusing about it. And I agree, it is so exciting to see that kind of those weather cells, those, just, it's a really remarkable thing that nature has that kind of capacity. When I talked about the 10 atom bombs in a cumulonimbus cloud, there are whole stories about, someone bails out of a plane, hits a cumulonimbus cloud and doesn't, if they live through it, and they're parachuting or something, they're bounced around in that cloud for a few hours before they come down, because it's that, it can be that intense an experience. So yeah, it's exciting, and I, maybe someday I'd chase, but there were a couple of some really extreme fatalities, like a whole carload of young people in a college who were meteorologists, perished in the spring because they were caught under a highway overpass or something. I'm good here. I'm good in Amherst, where I don't have to worry about tornadoes most of the time. We do have them, but unusual. So let me go back. And now I'll probably start right back at the beginning instead of where I want to be. But are you seeing things in the clouds here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm on the right page.
Yes.
So I think I said this before. There are some people who have this gift they look at something and they see a thing in it. And so in studying this, I learned there's actually a characteristic that humans have called apophenia, which is our tendency to correlate events. Like you go, I think that the reason that my cold got worse is because I did such and such, you know. It may have nothing to do with that. I mean, a lot of people medically diagnose that way. But we have a tendency to try to find patterns and just random information. There might be patterns, but it might just be random. So the thing with clouds, which is associated with this, so I think most people have some form of apophenia. Pareidolia is when you look at sort of random objects and see familiar things in them. And so people who look at clouds and immediately see something in them, like my friend who saw the dragon, I was doing this presentation with someone and she said, I see things in laundry piles. I was like, that is crazy to me. So it's a gift, I think, and I think you should cherish it and not feel embarrassed by it. And children famously do this with clouds. So I think it's a great way to connect cross-generationally too. So I thought I would close out by the thing that we all can do. I mean, some of us may be artists, some of us might be writers, we might write poems or paint about clouds, but I think most of us have some form of a camera, either on our phone or a camera that we hold. And there are things that you can do that will elevate your photography, I think. So that's what I wanted to just run down some tips. That's my son there on the right. We went out cloud spotting. It was like, look at this thing in the sky. So yeah. So the first thing is to pay attention to the weather. People have this tendency to go, it's a beautiful blue sky day. I think this would be a great day to go out. And that's usually not a good day. Like I'll sometimes look out, like right now I'm looking out my window, I'm like, all I see is blue sky. There, you might see something different. So I only see a small patch, but generally blue sky is not even a good time to take good landscape shots, because landscape shots are enhanced by having something going on in the sky, which is beautiful. So this is, I took this off East Street. You may recognize the location. I will say this is another example of the camera making something look more dramatic than it actually was. I won't say a storm wasn't happening, and I think it was, but that just looks like, I'm in the middle of a cumulonimbus cloud, and I don't think I was. So, but who knows? But think about the weather and going out when it's different kinds of weather will make for better photography. Go out at different times of day. The sunset shots can be amazing. And I think someone here noted, this is I find the fall, some of the best. I don't know exactly why it's true, but I think it might have to do something with the angle of the sun and our planet. Some of the best, this picture was taken in October. Some of the best sunset shots you will get this time of year. That we're coming into now. And this is another form of altocumulus, by the way, on that mid-level cloud. It's not clumping, it's more strands going out. And this just the amazingness of the sky and clouds. Again, I don't know that I ever saw anything quite like that since. One of my favorite pictures I was able to capture. Taking clouds in relation to something non-cloud will also enhance your cloud shots. And there's nothing wrong with just pointing your cloud up like I did with the cirrus cloud. You just saw a cirrus cloud, but what you didn't see was where it was in relation to anything around it or how big it was. So I was out, this is a couple weeks ago, and the clouds were doing something. The tobacco was being hung, and I thought this could be good. I'm forever wanting to get a picture of the clouds through the tobacco barn. I have not yet achieved that, but I keep working it. And I think regardless, it kind of gives you interest. It makes the sky interesting. It tells a story, it kind of pulls the clouds into what's going on in the world around it, in the fall. That sunset picture would have been something without the ground behind it, but the ground also informs what's happening here. You understand it's night and it's a farm. And by the way, this is over Simple Gifts Farms. So pay attention to where the light is. This is, I think, a really great example of that. Low light in the sky. This was taken, I believe, in January by Josh Wolfson, my son. And there's just a beautiful, you know, the sky reflected in the water, and this like silver just world. It's, I think, beautiful, but that's all because the light, I believe he was also using a polarizing lens on that camera that he was using. So another great tip, and this is for photography in general, look for paths or roads or streams. Photography, as I've mentioned, is a two-dimensional art form. You know, it doesn't have depth to it. And so to give it depth, if you find a path or a stream or something that's going off into the distance from your perspective as the photographer, it just creates that depth of field, that that sensation that, you know, there's distance between you and the perspective. And by the way, this is like one of those perfect cumulus summer days, with a few contrails up there. I just noticed that. This is, I think this is so funny, this picture. This is again a cumulus cloud, and one of the things, as I said, photography being two-dimensional as it is, it can look like when a cloud is hanging low that it is like ready to drop on you, basically. And so it does kind of look to me like this cloud is so close to the barn. It's like, it's clearly not as close as it appears, but it makes for a dramatic feature. So yeah, think about that as you're doing your photography as well. If you have a camera, I would, and actually cell phones are doing this now too. I would encourage you to do wide angle lens whenever you can. It obviously gives you great sense of space. And in this particular case, I took this off Maple Street again, another Maple Street shot. In this case, I also took advantage of those lines going out into the distance. So not only did I have wide angle left to right, but I also had that sort of path leading off into the distance. And last tip, take scenes that move you and tell a story. My friend Andy Churchill took this, and I don't know if you recognize where it was. When he sent it to me, I thought, oh my gosh, look, it's like an art gallery and like the inside and the outside. And I was like so moved. And then he was like, that's Hampshire Bicycle off University Drive. And I went, are you kidding? I mean, but it doesn't really matter. It's gorgeous. And there's this sort of interplay between the inner world and the outer world and the sort of colors and beauty around it. I just love it. And I feel like you can imagine a story being framed around this and what it's trying to convey. So I just wanted to wrap up by sharing a couple of resources. So you're going to get this again in the PowerPoint. I would encourage you to check out the Cloud Appreciation Society if you want. It's a membership thing. I think membership is like $35 a year. You get the daily, by the way, I get no money for doing this. I just love them. So I'm telling you about it. You can join a community group like our Massachusetts group. I also belong to other community groups. Like most people join their local group. I belong to Australia, to Portland, to Virginia. They have some incredible clouds. And so I get to see all of it. It's just a treat every day. And they send out a daily email with your cloud of the day thing. You get a little badge, you get a certificate. People put it on their walls, like I am member, whatever. So that's fun. Again, shameless promotion here. I don't get money for doing this. It's just a volunteer thing, but I am heading to Clouds Amherst. I have a blog. Most people interact with us through Facebook. There's also a Twitter page. Like I said, if you send me your pictures after this, I will post them to the Facebook page. Everyone loves that. It's like a really cool thing. It builds community. And periodically people will just send me random pictures, some of which you saw here. So the Cloud Appreciation Society also has, for totally free, a Facebook page. There are a lot of lookalikes like the Cloud Appreciation Network, and if it's a closed group, you're not looking at the Cloud Appreciation Societies, and you'll know because This group has about 54,000 members on their list, and the others won't have as many. But people post there very frequently, different pictures from all over the world. And that's really cool. One thing I will tell you, you can go there and post. There's one thing you need to know though. The one thing that will get your picture booted is if you do not post where you took it. And for Americans, that means including your country. So even if you're in New York City or Boston, you have to say Boston, Massachusetts in the USA, because people, this is an international group and they get irritated when they think, when Americans, we have a tendency of thinking everyone knows where these places are, and they don't. So there's just a tip as you go through. And then there's also a New England Cloud Appreciation group, which I belong to. It is a closed group, but they also post cloud pictures. It's kind of amazing, actually. As you get into this, you realize, wow, there are a lot of people who are doing this and into it. And then, you know, I can't let you out without sort of the gift shop area. So these are things that you might find happy, you know, fun. And I have links to, again, this is a product put out. This is it right here. It's the Cloud Collector's Handbook. It's the thing I talked about that gives you points for clouds and you can compete. There's a Cloud Spotter's Guide. I don't have it here in front of me, but that was the first book that Cass put out. And it has the story actually about the person who bumped around in the cumulonimbus cloud for hours, and other amazing stories about clouds. NOAA has a free chart that you can download. I've laminated mine. NOAA being the National Oceanic and Aeronautic Association, maybe atmospheric, not aeronautic, oceanic and atmospheric. That's the US, you know, weather group, like department, the federal department. CAS also has a sky spotting chart poster. They have flashcards. What I love about their flashcards, I've got one here. So the flashcards also give you points, like they tell you how much, like this is can you see this? It's a horseshoe vortex. It's a kind of cloud. And this is so rare that it gets a 5 rating. But what I think is cool is they're all drawings. There are no photographs. So you get, you know, some artist's impression of all these clouds, which is kind of cool. And then I told you about the membership. And this is something, I think you can get this for free or very little. I love this thing. You can put it on your phone. This is a Cloud a Day app. And you can take a picture and you can have the, you know, show the app the picture, and the app will tell you what kind of cloud you're looking at. If you have a mixed sky cloud, you know, mixed cloud day picture, it may get a little confused, but for the most part, it can make you look really smart. So I don't know all my classifications, but if I get confused, I put it through the app and I'm like, now I can sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about all the time. So the last thing I wanted to say was go outside and keep looking up, mostly because there are also some really cool cloud images when you're not looking up. This is a picture of Puffer's Pond, clouds reflected in Puffer's Pond. And I've seen clouds reflected off mirrors, off windows. There's a cast member in New York City who takes these most amazing pictures downtown on skyscrapers, reflections of clouds on skyscrapers. So there are all kinds of ways to view clouds. So that's the formal part of this presentation. I'm gonna leave the PowerPoint and, oh, thank you. We have some minutes here. If anyone, you know, has a picture they want to share or talk about, I'd invite you to do that, or any questions or comments at all. Judith, Larry, right?
Yeah.
that's Larry, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to say what made this presentation even more special, besides the new information, was that all the pictures were like in our backyard.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. That was a smart thing to do. I mean, it's like we can recognize that and many of the images, and you made some really good points about contrasting the sky with something, which isn't hard to do, but you're not always thinking about it you know, your tendency is to go straight up into the sky with your phone.
Yeah.
So some great points. And I really like we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but the whole idea of seeing things, because I feel like that happens to many of us. I don't know if it happens to everybody. And I can experience that sometimes, even like just in the forest. You know, there could be like a downed tree and it looks like something for a while, and it's in there, you know, it's there longer than a cloud in some cases, but clouds are kind of fleeting in terms of how long it looks the way of whatever it is you see. So it's a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think, is it an artist thing that maybe artists are better at sort of seeing things in things? I don't know. I wonder about that. I'm not someone who does that naturally, as I said. So I think B. Jemison had their hand up. Am I right? Or
No,
sorry.
we had some people just commenting that it has been terrific. Thank you, Sharon. It has been very interesting. Judith Raifa just says, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this. So people are just being very thankful for the presentation. B. Jamison is just clapping, saying yay.
Good. Oh, that was a clap. I thought
Yeah,
it might
that was
be
a clap,
hand
yeah.
raised. Okay,
So if
good.
anybody else has anything to say,
Your
ask,
pho- your
unmute
photo,
yourself.
Sharon's photographs are quite nice.
Thank you. I've taken
I
a
mean,
lot of them. Yeah,
but the way you've taken them a little bit off center and have a nice angle on things, really nice pictures.
I appreciate that.
I needed to plug something. One of the members who's on this presentation will be also presenting later in the month, in keeping with the theme of nature. Don Wise, who's a professor emeritus, at the end of the month will be giving a presentation on the moon.
Yeah.
So those of you that are on this, that have a love for nature, it's up above the clouds, but it's all about the lunar landscape, because he spent a lot of time working around the early moon missions. So for those of you, I'm just putting a little plug. That's September 29th.
Okay.
And I want to thank you, Sharon, for giving us an opportunity to see what is above us in new ways. It was quite wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
And I want to remind people that although we are a no membership fee organization, we do need funds in order to keep giving you programs such as the one that we just got today. And so please take a look at what we offer online. And if you can, donate. I'd also like to tell people that there are a number of programs coming up this September. We try to keep a whole lot of options up there. And one of them, as you said, Larry, was a new look at the old moon. And there's going to be a picnic with Amherst neighbors on the 12th. So people should try and come out to that. You can meet the people who belong. And if you want to belong, that would be good. And there are a few others, but go and look at our website so that you can find out what's going to go on next. We do have, if you wish, 15 more minutes that we can talk about to you, Sharon, or you can talk to us.
Well, you were just talking about the moon, and I thought I should make note of the fact there are people out there, and someone who often sends pictures to Head in the Clouds Amherst, who takes a lot of pictures of the moon. And I, as someone who was in astronomy back in the day, the moon is pretty uniform. You know, if you're taking pictures of the moon, you can take a picture this month and next month and the month after. And if there's no clouds in the sky, it's going to look the same, you know, pretty much. You might get different shadings, but clouds can be a great accompaniment to the moon, like the moon through clouds, the high clouds through, it can make for a very dramatic moonshot. I just wanted to make note of that. I don't know if anyone here has tried that, but the moon through the trees, through the clouds, it's like, it's a different thing each time. I guess that's what I think is really cool about the clouds is you'll never see the same sky twice. It's like, it's always something new and different. So not that the moon isn't great, that's a whole other thing, but in terms of photographing it, it can become, repetitive if you're taking it always without anything else around it. So any other thoughts or questions or comments?
Well, I just had a thought that this summer, since we've had almost no rain, I keep looking at those clouds that look like they could bring rain and then they don't. They take somewhere else or whatever. Anyway, whatever. And I've also seen some really huge stratocumulus clouds sometimes, like going on Rocky Hill Road at a point when I really can't stop and take a picture, but I can look south and see these massive clouds. It's been really beautiful. They just
when you get some distance from those storm cells, they can be and someone I meant to actually show that to you, and some other time I'll have to show it to you, is someone in the eastern part of the state took they were on, I don't know, highway overpass or something, were looking down a valley as the cells were coming through, and you could see them 1, 2, 3 in a line with the anvil shape. It was really impressive. So often, because we're in woods, when we do our Skywarn training, we are taught this all the time. People who are in, say, Kansas or, New Mexico or wherever they have like a large vista can definitely see the storm cells coming. They can identify them. You've got this visual, we're in the woods, or we're in hilly country. We just don't have that kind of long view often. So it's why, being around farmland is actually kind of awesome for cloud viewing, because, I live, in the woods basically, but, I can drive 5 minutes and I'm, I have these spots that I know to go to where I can see that sort of long vista, and it's pretty impressive. Even if you go, the place where you can go along the Connecticut River, there's that in Hadley, that walk off, where you can walk the path, you can get a good view of to the west. And sometimes we'll get clouds off the Berkshires, like lenticular clouds, which kind of like are fuzzy, almost like lima bean shaped, or I think someone here describes sort of those long clouds. We get those because we have some hilly mountain, you could call the Berkshires mountains, but you know what I'm saying. They have topography changes, which makes that happen.
Do you have any sense how far, if we're standing on a hill in Amherst that looks west, for example, and see clouds, how far away those clouds might be near the horizon?
That's a really good question. I wonder if someone else here would be able to answer that. I don't know how far I'm necessarily looking. So, what are we seeing to Northampton? We're not going to see much further, but if you have some elevation, I suppose you might. Anyone else want to hazard that a guess there?
I don't know. It does seem sometimes we might see a big thunderstorm that seems to be pretty far away, but how far is pretty far? I don't know.
Yeah, there are people like me who have 4 weather apps on my phone. And so I'm constantly looking at the NOAA weather, service to see where they are. And that's how I know things are coming. But what's interesting, and this goes back to chasing, I don't chase tornadoes, but I definitely like to run out in a thunderstorm in a car, not, under a tree. Don't do that. And actually, I've now found out that it's bad for cars too if they get hit by lightning. I never really thought that through, but it takes out the whole electrical system of cars, blows out your tires. So I might start being more cautious about that. But I definitely go out. Like I'll see on the radar something's coming through Greenfield and I go for it, it is so hard actually to intersect with these systems, and I think that's what's really interesting about even people who tornado chase. When I, go onto their platforms and they have blogs and they do their own thing, it's actually really hard to land in a tornado. It's not that common. You can get to inclement weather, you can see incredible vistas. National Geographic for a while ran what they were calling and billing a tornado chasing tour. So you could sign up and go on vacation for 2 weeks with the National Geographic, whatever, a van, I guess, that drove around. And the chances of you actually coming across a tornado were very slim, but they promised that you would get great cloud shots. You get cells, you get supercells, you would get cumulonimbus, you would get incredible vistas. And so people would go for that alone because that's really cool. Frankly, I'm not sure I want to be that close to a tornado,
I was
Having been there. Yeah.
Yeah, I was driving in on 120 on Route 202 when the tornado came through Western Mass 10 or 11 years ago. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I remain quite grateful that I was not on I-91 in Springfield when that I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to be on an elevated highway or crossing the Connecticut River on the bridge and see that tornado coming at you.
Perhaps I can help a little bit of the distance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I haven't been able to get the video up, but when you're here in Amherst, you're looking at three different things off in the distance. About 5 miles away, you're looking out at Mount
Mount Warner.
Warner, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then the Berkshires will be about 15 miles away, but there are two levels of the Berkshires. The lower Berkshires are the younger ones, and then the older ones, which are the far side, are basically the edge of the whole Appalachian belt there, and they'll be about 30 miles out. And if you look really carefully and you're up on a hill here on Mount Tom, you may get a glimpse of Mount Greylock, which is a little bit of a chunk of this side of the mountains pushed to the other side. So about 30 miles away.
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I, for a time I've lived in a lot of places, lived in Albuquerque and had an apartment up on the side of the hill, the mountain there, Sandia Mountains, which looked west, and you were looking probably 500 miles. You could see these systems coming, and it was incredible. Like I just was in a bit of an heaven every time a storm system came over, because you could see it for such a while coming, and you could see the lightning when it was way off in the distance still. So yeah. On the downside, they had no water, so like no ocean. Carly.
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't seem to be able to be heard.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to close up. And we have information on the groups that you work with. Do we have a number that somebody could write to you about?
Sure. I'm wondering if so. I think Joanna's going to send out the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Joanna, would you be willing to send out? I'm fine to have, like, you could send my email and phone number. I will admit I don't always answer phone numbers that I don't recognize, as probably most of us do these days. But if you leave a message, I will call you back. But the email is probably and it's cloudsamherst@gmail.com, of course. So you can't really forget that too easily. But if you send that out, Joanna, I will absolutely send me your pictures, not just now, but going forward. Head in the Clouds Amherst is not a membership organization. It's like you come to Facebook and you hang out and you like it, and you follow. So that would be awesome.
Yes, I will send that PowerPoint presentation and include your email. And you do want me to include your phone number?
Sure, I'm good with that.
Okay, I can do that.
Great.
Maybe
Did you-
not put it on the screen for everyone, whoever sees us on YouTube, but like.
Correct.
Would you repeat what you just said about what we're supposed to send?
So
Because
send me
you-
your pictures.
She
So,
said it very fast and I couldn't get it.
sorry, yeah. So if you send me at the email, so you can do this two ways. You can actually go to the Facebook page for Head in the Clouds Amherst, and you can upload a picture right to the Facebook page. You can also send, some people prefer to just send them to me and let me put them up. And then I say things like, oh, you know, Freddie sent this picture and she took it in this place. So I do a little, you know, I like to acknowledge
Promo.
the people who go to, I like to acknowledge people who
Okay.
share their beautiful images and the things that they've done. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for the people who love to put good energy out into the world. I think there's not a lot of that on social media. So I like to just create a really nice, warm and respectful community that all enjoys this part of life,
Thank you.
the
Thank
clouds
you
and
very
nature.
much.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. This has been fun. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you for being here. This was
Thanks.
delightful.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
And
Thank you. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.